Now, there's been a surprising and sad spike in the number of daily deaths from coronavirus in Victoria. We're yet to hear, though, if that toll reported today includes people who've passed away before that previous 24 hours. And there's been a relatively low number of new daily cases in the past 24 hours. There's concern, though, about a regional Victorian spot. Reporter Steph Ferrier is in Melbourne, and we've got reporter Courtney Howe in Shepparton. Steph, to you first. So take us through those numbers today.
Yes, sure. Good morning, Joe. Well, as you mentioned, we do have a concerning 5 new deaths that have been reported, and we don't know whether or not they relate to the past 24 hours yet. That detail will come up in the press conference hopefully later, but it is interesting to note that of the 23 people that were in hospital yesterday, none were in ICU. So we don't know whether or not, hopefully that might mean that it's also historical cases. Of course, people in aged care homes can also have end-of-life plans as well that don't take into account going into hospital either. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that. However, the good news is that our new case number is down to just 7. So we've gone down to single digits again after rises in the double digits that we've seen of recent times. And that is also important to factor in that it is traditionally a spike day on the Wednesday, which is when a lot of people go and get tested following the weekend break, and also the labs are back up and running as well. So it will be interesting to see off the back of the testing numbers and exactly how many people were tested yesterday. Just on those deaths, sadly, that takes our toll up to 816. And another worry that we also have is the number of mystery cases. Now, in metropolitan Melbourne, they've also gone up by 1 to 14. So that is a real concern for us as well. And our 14-day average as well is back down to 9.6. So that was hovering at the 10, and that is great news as well. Sorry, I got the wrong number there. The mystery cases is still is up to 14 mystery cases in Metro Melbourne. Now the regional 14-day average is 0.6, so that accounts for some of these new cases that we've seen in the regions as well, slightly up from 0.4 where it was sitting before.
And so, Steph, how are things looking for Sunday's announcement about where to from here for both regional Victoria and Metro Melbourne?
Well, you have to say that the slight increase in the regional numbers is a little bit of a blow for the regional areas that were hoping for some more business easing of restrictions. They're, of course, a step ahead than people in Greater Melbourne. And we have already been told by Premier Daniel Andrews that we won't be able to take as significant a step towards COVID normal when he announces the changes on Sunday. He does say that there will be steps, but for Melbourne it will be more in the social setting rather than the economic one. So still some bad news for those businesses that are really hoping to open up. And it's a big question as to whether or not we will see us coming out of lockdown as well. Perhaps there'll be some increases in terms of the number of gathering outdoors as well. So perhaps more people than 5 that are allowed to gather outside. But what we do know is that, of course, at least the average is down, but it's not anywhere near. They had hoped 5 cases or fewer for the new cases. The mystery cases are going to particularly be a real concern, and that will be weighing on authorities' minds as they decide what will come up ahead for Sunday and the measures that they'll be able to take. And we have seen, despite this pressure that's mounting on the Premier from a very lockdown-weary community, he did have some wins in Parliament last night. Last night, the lower house easily defeated a no-confidence motion in his government that was brought about by the opposition, pointing to several failures, they said, in the way that the government has handled this pandemic, although the Premier Daniel Andrews brushed this off as a cheap political stunt. That was defeated by 23 votes to 44. And then also in the upper house, we saw that they managed to also get their omnibus bill through, which is important because it is the legal framework to be able to enforce the Victorian Chief Health Officer's directions as well. And we saw a bit of a visual, a bit of a stunt with a bus that was saying don't throw Victorians under the bus, like the omnibus bill that was driving past Parliament yesterday ahead of this debate, and it got through with the support of crossbenchers. And also what the opposition failed to do in that amendment was they tried to get an amendment through to scrap the controversial 5 kilometre from home limit on Melburnians. That didn't get passed, but of course that is one of those particular matters that is going to be under consideration and possibly will be changed as of this Sunday.
Okay, now to reporter Courtney Howe in Shepparton. Courtney, g'day. So what's the latest on the cases there?
Good morning, Joe. Yes, late last night we had confirmation that there are 3 positive coronavirus cases in Shepparton. And of course this morning we've also had confirmation of 1 case in Gippsland. Now that case is at the Bairnsdale Secondary College, but the principal there has said there is no risk to the community. Now to the Shepparton cases, we have been told by Goulburn Valley Health, the local health service here, that all 3 people are self-isolating and are being monitored. They have, DHHS has released an extensive list of high-risk locations where these people have come in contact with, and they are strongly urging anyone who's been to these locations or feeling unwell to get themselves tested.
Yeah, and so what else are health authorities asking people to do?
Yeah, so they are putting out a big response at the moment. We have a local public health team here in Shepparton, and they have begun their extensive contact tracing to try to find all those close contacts of those 3 cases. There is going to be a pop-up testing clinic here in Shepparton at the showgrounds from 12:30 p.m. today to help get those people through the testing sites. Of course, there is already a clinic set up at the hospital on Graham Street as well that people are encouraged to go to. Those extensive list of sites that includes cafes, restaurants, a tyre store and a hairdressing salon that have been included in those high-risk locations. People are being encouraged to take a look at that list and look at isolating themselves and getting themselves tested if they've been there or are feeling unwell at the moment.
And Courtney, we can see it's pretty busy, relatively busy on the roads there behind you in Shepparton this morning. What's life been like there over the past couple of months, and what's been some of the reaction there this morning?
Yeah, well, certainly once we moved to step 3, there was that little bit of sigh of relief that we were starting to get back to a little bit of normal. People could go to cafes and restaurants. We had the beautiful Victoria Park lakes here. There were people picnicking there every day out in the sun. But now they'll be feeling very nervous this morning because, of course, there's been calls going louder for further easing of restrictions here in the regions, and they were certainly hoping that that was going to happen this week. Now, I did see before that the Chief Health Officer, Brett Sutton, tweeted out this morning a bit of support for Shepparton. He said, "Crush it, Shepparton, test and quarantine, you can do it." So hopefully that will give the community here a bit of a lift this morning. We've also had a couple of local politicians weighing in on this. The local member for Shepparton, State Member Susanna Sheed, spoke a little earlier. She was sitting late in Parliament last night when she heard the news. Here is what she had to say.
The Health Minister approached me in the corridor just before I went in to give that speech on the no confidence motion, and I just truly felt gutted. I felt very emotional, and I think that is the way so many people in my community will be feeling at the moment.
Yes, many people would certainly be devastated at the news this morning that there are more coronavirus cases in Shepparton. Also, we've heard this morning from Federal Nationals MP Damien Drum. For a long time, he has been calling for the so-called ring of steel around Melbourne to be strengthened to prevent people from metropolitan Melbourne coming into regional areas. I'm sure those calls will be growing louder again today.
Yeah, hopefully health authorities will get on top of things there in regional Victoria very quickly. OK, we'll leave there. Courtney Howe in Shepparton and Steph Ferrier in Melbourne.